Good morning. This is Father George Williams, and welcome to our next Catholic Prison Ministry Coalition webinar. Today we're going to talk to you about our new website and how to navigate it and what features it has so that you can avail yourself of the resources that are out there. About a year and a half ago, we gathered for a meeting in Washington, D.C., people who are involved in prison ministry around the country, Catholic prison ministry. And we realized that there was no go-to place for people doing the kind of work that we're doing, whether it's in jails or prisons or working with families or victims. So we organized the Catholic Prison Ministry Coalition to be the go-to place for American and Canadian prison ministry resources. So what we're going to do today, I have with me Greg Mellor, who is our CPMC manager, along with Dustin Feddon, who is also one of the founding members of the CPMC. And we're going to introduce you to our website and to the features there and to some of the programs that we're planning. And also invite you to use your chat feature on your screen to send us your comments, your questions, and most important, suggestions. What do you need? We try to anticipate the needs of all of people involved in the work we're doing, but there are, obviously there are many things that we haven't thought of, and that's what you're here for, hopefully, to help us add to the website to make it the most effective resource online for people engaged in the work that we're doing. So Greg, good morning. Why don't you start us out?
Sure. Good morning, George, and thank you for that introduction. Hello, everyone. As George mentioned, my name is Greg Mellor, and I'm the Managing Director for Catholic Prison Ministries Coalition. I think what I'm going to do is I put together a little PowerPoint slideshow, so I'm going to share my screen. So that way you can see this slideshow, and I'm going to be going between some slides as well as the CPMC website. All right, little opening slide there. Yeah, so just wanted to start off by just going over a little bit of what CPMC has been up to. As most of you know, our website went live in early September. And since that point, you know, some of the key things that we've been focusing on, webinars, we've been doing them for longer than, you know, a couple of months. Those have been going back into 2018. But after today's webinar, we'll have 17 webinars up on the site, and those cover various topics related to the prison ministry, jail ministry, reentry, restorative justice, and we'll continue those into the 2020 year. We also have over 50 ministry listings now. You know, one of the goals of CPMC was to kind of create this sort of Yelp for Catholic prison ministries and organizations across the United States. So that way those ministries can connect with each other, but also as a way of promoting their really valuable and important work. So if you're out there and you're connected to a prison-related ministry or organization that has not submitted information to CPMC, please do so. We really want to get as much of that content on this site as possible. Again, a way to promote your valuable work and also for people to connect with each other across the states. You know, CPMC is largely built on our partners. We have 26 partners, most of the national organizations that help to support us by providing information and also supporting us in other ways. Since September as well, in September, we kind of started some social media presence, particularly through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You know, during the last couple of months, we're slowly gaining traction on our Facebook page. If you're on Facebook and you'd like to follow us, that would be great. Right now, we have a little bit over 150 followers, and on Facebook, you know, you're going to be able to find some highlights and updates of what's going on with Catholic Prison Ministries. It's a little bit a quicker update than say our emails, our monthly, bi-monthly emails that we send out. Speaking of those, MailChimp is the email server that we use to send out emails for our webinars, as well as our monthly newsletters, which have started up as well. Right now we have over 1,300 subscribers to that email list, which is a solid number. And of course, we want to keep adding to that. So if you're working in prison-related ministry in a parish or in another organization, please share CPMC website with those you work with and other volunteers, so that way they can get on our emailing list too. Looking ahead, just a couple of things too that we're doing outside of the website. One is that this weekend, a group of us will be in Washington, D.C. for a conference called the Ignatian Family Teaching for Justice, or IFTJ. It's basically the largest Catholic social justice conference in the country. There'll be around 2,000 people there, a lot of whom are high school and college age students and staff from those schools. And one thing that we're conscious of in regard to the Catholic prison ministry is that there's a need to prepare and to recruit the next generation of ministers in this work. So this is one way that we're seeking to do that. We're going to have a pre-session, a 2.5-hour pre-conference session on Saturday, which will include 6 panelists who are involved, anywhere from college-age students to myself. I'll be on it, as well as Catherine Soltis, who's a member of our executive committee and works at Villanova University. We'll also have Father Dustin and Father George, who are with us today on this webinar, speaking to the importance of prison ministry in the Catholic Church. A couple other features back to the website. We're going to be putting up some new pages, again, trying to reach out to the younger generation. We're going to have a high school and college page that specifically speaks to opportunities for high school students, college students, those who work with them as campus ministers, to get involved in prison ministry. There's some ways that persons as young as high school can volunteer and connect with some sort of incarceration ministry. Penpals is a big one, but there's other ways as well. 2 other pages we're going to have putting up are a podcasts page with podcasts relevant to this work, and we're also going to be starting a blog as well. Just 2 other points I have on there. George and Dustin will really be speaking to in a little bit later. One is Catholic Prison Ministries Coalition is working with the National Association of Catholic Chaplains, NACC, and working on credentialization for people working in prison ministries as volunteers. And that's really actually going to be a focus of our webinars in 2020. Starting in January, will be some training, some formation and education focused on preparing people to go in and to minister in prisons, in jails, and other prison-related ministries. So that's just a quick overview. Additional key features, and I'm going to just quickly go over these, and then I will go to the site just to kind of show you around a little bit. I know there's a lot on there, so wanting to share with you all the valuable information and resources and stuff, and kind of show you how to get to them. So some of our key, on our main menu for the website, we have a Seeking Ministry page. We have a section on, and Seeking Ministry is basically for persons who are seeking ministry for a loved one. So for persons on the outside who have a loved one who's incarcerated, this is a page where we're highlighting information and resources for those who are incarcerated. The Seeking to Minister page is for people who, are interested in learning about what could it look like to be a prison volunteer or a prison minister or a jail minister. What would that entail? On that page, one of the key features that we have is this Prison and Jail Ministry 101. It's a series of 6 videos that Father Dustin and Father George had presented at the National Association of Catholic Chaplains Conference in 2019. It consists of, again, 6 videos. So something really valuable to look at whether you're a seasoned veteran in prison ministry or just getting started. And then we just have a bunch of resources. We have some really valuable resources. We have a page with upcoming events. And that's one thing that we invite you to share with us. If there's a conference or a workshop or a training in your area that you'd like for us to promote, please send it along and we'll get it up on the site. Then we have just resources, documents, information on Catholic social teaching, how that relates to prison ministry, poverty and incarceration, resources on racism and incarceration, as well as immigration detention. And then we have those pages on advocacy, restorative justice, and some info about us. So want to next, oops, don't want to go here yet. Want to next share the website and just kind of go through some of the things that I spoke of right there. So the one thing, as George had mentioned at the start of this webinar, one thing we really want to invite you to do is to reach out to us in different ways. So not just during today's webinar, but in the future, please take advantage of the contact us option. So you can send us questions, you can send us suggestions. That's only going to help us to improve what we offer, as well as improve the website. So please feel free to reach out. As I said, one of the key things of our website as well is the listings page, which we have right now, a little over 50 different ministry listings across the United States. And we really try to make this user-friendly in that you can use this page to seek out or to look up ministries according to a category. So here are some of the categories here on the left screen here. So you can click on any of these boxes and those ministry listings that correspond to those categories will pop up. We also have it broken down to regions, so you can kind of get a sense of what's going on in your area. And again, please do continue to send us and to submit information about your ministries. Let's see. As I mentioned before, there's the Seeking Ministry page, which is primarily for those who are seeking resources and or ministries for a loved one. So this would be for persons on the outside, again, seeking some information, resources for a loved one who is incarcerated. The Seeking to Ministry page, Seeking to Minister, I mentioned the Jail and Prison Ministry 101, but it just goes over a little bit, this document here, Jail or Prison Ministry, is a nice document that was put together by Father George, just explaining the differences between jail and prison ministry. There's some significant differences. So again, these resources can be really helpful, especially for persons who are just starting out, but definitely there's resources here that are super important to those who have been involved for a while. Some of our resource pages, so we have a page on restorative justice, we have a page on advocacy, And these two pages are largely link you to organizations that are already doing this work. One of the things when Catholic Prison Ministry Coalition got started was, we weren't trying to rewrite or just to redo what other people are doing, but rather to kind of serve as this centralized hub for the good work that's happening, to create a networking opportunity for people who are involved in this work, kind of a one-stop place to go. So, we're not, a lot of the information and resources on the restorative justice page, on the advocacy page, are basically directing you to what's already out there. What are the best resources out there? We're directing you to those places. For example, here are some different organizations that are already doing this work really well. So we're just kind of pointing you in that direction. The resources page has numerous resources. Again, we kind of have pages on immigration detention, racism and incarceration, poverty and incarceration. A couple other of the resources, we have our webinars, which has been one of our big features of the website, and offering training, information, and education on prison-related ministry and volunteering. Also, again, we went over explore listings, but two upcoming events, please continue to send us information on your workshops and trainings and so forth. Right now, for under media resources, we have a page on articles. I mentioned earlier, we'll be going and creating a page for podcasts as well. And in order to share this information, I mentioned, some things that we'd love for you to submit regard your ministry listings, resources that you have that you'd like to share, and also to post your events. In order to do that, you would click on the Join Our Mission page, which I've already done. So this is the Join Our Mission page. And on here, you can fill out a form. There's a form to post a resource. So if you have an article or a podcast or a video that you find really, hey, I want to share this, I think this would benefit other people involved in this ministry, send it along, and we'll get it up on the site. We also have, as I said, events. You can post an event. We kind of have a monthly calendar going. So take a look at that as well. And then, as I shared a few times already, please continue to submit your listings. And that listing form is on our Join Our Mission page as well. The last one, I think, I'm having a tough time clicking on. Oh, there we go. I had to move a box. But just to give you a sense of I mentioned earlier that we're supported by many partners across the United States. And just if you're interested to check out who we're connected with. And if anybody's out there who is working with an organization or a ministry that you'd like to partner with us, please reach out to us too. We're always looking for new ways to partner and to collaborate and to support this important work. All right, let me just double check to see if I'm missing anything. One last thing, I guess, would be that we're starting to, I mentioned the social media presence. So in order to connect with our social media presence, on the top of the website, on any page, any page that you're on, you're going to see these icons, and these refer to our different social media presences. So we have Facebook here, we have Twitter, we have YouTube, which basically posts our webinars. We also have Instagram. I still need to get the Instagram little icon up there. And then emails go directly to me as the manager. So again, please reach out as needed. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I know I went over a lot there. So again, as George had mentioned, and I tried to reiterate, please send us questions, feedback. Now's a great time for us to continue to learn how to best support the work and ministry that you're doing. So yeah, please share that. And I'm gonna pass it back to George and Dustin.
Yes, thanks, Greg. That was a great overview. I think going back to one of your earlier points about upcoming certification, what we're planning to do are 3 levels of certification. One is basic introductory training for people who are just beginning to do prison ministry or jail ministry as volunteers, primarily people in parishes who want to start a prison ministry in their parish. The basic things you need to know, and a lot of that is covered on the Prison 101, Jail and Prison Ministry 101 series of trainings that Father Dustin and I did that's on our website, but we will have more. Then we're also planning on an intermediate level for people who have been doing prison ministry for a while and want to develop their skills and their knowledge base. That will be a deeper level of training, and hopefully we'll get to attend to a lot of that when we do our 2020 series of webinar trainings coming up next year, actually in a couple of months. And then the highest level, and this is where we're working with the NACC, has to do with certifying people who are already working on a professional level, either as volunteers or as paid chaplains in a jail or a prison. And people who want to do sort of like continuing education units for social workers or nurses. We want to be able to provide that kind of level of ongoing training for people who are already doing this kind of work. So that's where we're looking at in terms of training. That's still in the process of development. However, we're also open and interested in hearing your feedback as to what you want and what you need. As an aside, I'm noticing on our chat room, somebody wrote, do you really think teenage volunteers could be pen pals to inmates? Wouldn't they be more apt to be sucked in by nefarious schemes? Yeah, I do actually. I was thinking about that coming up this weekend when we're going to be in DC at the Jesuit family teach-in. And I'm thinking that the thing for high school students I would encourage is before they jump into trying to be working directly with prisoners, especially adult prisoners, it would be better for them to be involved in learning about the criminal justice system in the country, learning about the issues, getting involved in advocacy on that level. I think also working with juvenile offenders would be appropriate for high school level students because they're people from the same age. But there's always the problem of being manipulated. And that's not just high school students, that's senior people as well. So it's not an easy population to deal with. They're not all horrible, evil people, but they do have a lot of issues, and we have to be common sense. We have to use common sense and be careful when working with them. So I would not have high school students working in a jail or a prison in any way. I think they're much too young. I also don't think most undergrads in college are really ready for this kind of work. Graduate level, beginning to be, but that's a good point that Kathy raises, and I think that's an area that, again, I think we would want to emphasize students, high school and undergraduate level, becoming more involved in the issues and the advocacy, things like the Catholic Mobilizing Network, anything like that would be really important for them to become aware of the political issues, because really when it comes down to it, it's a political problem. Somebody asked about reentry, and I think I'm going to kick that over to you, Dustin, because you're actually doing reentry work. And how would you see, say, our listeners, students becoming involved in the kind of work you're doing?
Yeah, well, thanks, George. Thanks, Greg, for the overview of the presentation of the website. One thing, just as I was listening to you, Greg, one thing that I really appreciate, what I appreciate a lot about this particular website is that it kind of pays a lot of respect to just how comprehensive this ministry is. That when you get involved in prison ministry, really at any level, whether it's reentry or whether it's going to cell fronts or whether it's an advocacy or whether it's in restorative justice, you realize just how much of a need there is for a holistic approach to this type of ministry. And this website is kind of, I view it as almost like a portal into the larger workings and ministries within the church. You see just how broad the ministries are, and through the website with the Catholic Prison Ministries Coalition. And so for me, and the work that I'm doing in particular, I go into prisons, but a lot of my time here recently has been devoted to reentry. And working in reentry, one of the things you realize kind of early on is just how, let's say, just how underprepared you can be. At times you feel like, when I take on the responsibility of helping men and women as they're coming out of prison, that again, there's a need for a holistic approach in serving the person as they're reentering. And in my particular ministry with this, I realized that I need a lot more information about other programs, other ministries that are out there and have been doing this for a lot longer of a time than I have. And so this is why this particular website, I think, has a tremendous amount of potential in connecting and networking with different ministries to kind of at times supplement or to contribute to the ministry that I'm involved here in Tallahassee, Florida. There are ministries all over the country that have been doing this for a much longer time. Dismas, I'm thinking of the St. Dismas House in South Bend, and other ministries like that, that can provide me with best practices, can kind of point me to resources that I should be tapping into and that our ministry here in Tallahassee at Joseph House should be tapping into. And then, of course, as you mentioned, Greg, and you showed there on the website, there's also resources in terms of not only just the church's teachings, but also in looking in particular at prison ministry work and reentry as a social justice issue. So to be able to have resources and articles and blogs that are covering the topics that no doubt all of us will face at one time or another, whether it's in reentry or whether it's in prison ministry or whether it's doing restorative justice work, this to me is why this kind of Yelp approach to Catholic prison ministries throughout the nation is so critical. And again, I can just say, for me, it is, it's been the conversations I've had with a few of the folks from Catholic Charities USA, the St. Vincent de Paul Society, and some of the things that they're doing that has contributed already in very practical ways to the ministry that I'm involved in reentry. And so I guess I'm, kind of on the ground here and doing the work here in Tallahassee. I've already seen how networking and being in conversation with other ministries on a frequent basis has contributed greatly to the ministry here.
Thank you, Dustin. I'm aware that at any moment I could lose my internet connection here, so I'm going to suggest that we wrap up quickly so we don't get cut off. Greg, would you say a little bit about our upcoming webinar in December?
Sure. And if I may, I'm going to offer a quick thought to, I think it was Kathy who asked a really good question about Penpals and high school students. To clarify, I think you're right on, Kathy, bringing that question in, like, is that a good idea for high school students to be becoming pen pals with persons who are incarcerated? And then George brought up too, which I think is very true, that whether it's a high school student or a 50-year-old person, both can be manipulated in different ways, and by persons who are just in really difficult situations while incarcerated. I think what I'm even getting more at is that this can be a really cool project, classroom project for high school students. I have a close friend who teaches at a Catholic high school in Chicago, and as part of his class, he had students write letters to an inmate on death row. And he and the students found that to be a really powerful experience. So, you know, in that situation, it's kind of monitored. You know, it's being sent out through the high school. Personal information is not being given, which is typically the protocol when through different pen pal organizations for that connect with inmates. So I think that's kind of more what I was getting at as an opportunity, and that's something for, you know, maybe for religious studies and theology teachers, as well as maybe campus ministers, to create some sort of opportunity for the students like that.
If Greg, if I may, just real quick, add to what you and George both have been talking with the question about teenagers, is that the Knights of Malta apparently have a program that works with this, and they provide training and resources so that it's not in any way just, you know, encouraging teenagers just to write, you know, inmates, or setting up a program like that, that it would be structured in a way that there would be training, there would clearly be parental permission. And my understanding is that Karen, really her whole involvement in death row ministries and advocacy at Catholic Mobilizing Network in large part started because her son was a pen pal with someone on death row. So if you think about it, it's that one relationship, again, you know, structured, parents are aware, but how that can really inform not only the teenager or the student, whatever, but also their family and then their community, because we all know that so many of us, and I can speak for myself here, get involved in these ministries through, it's just one relationship or one connection that we make. But again, we would want that to be structured, there would be training, and then obviously always emphasize parental involvement. So.
Thank you, Dustin. Okay, so any second now we're going to lose our internet here, and in that case we're going to drop off. So I'm going to sign us off at this point. Hopefully you found this introduction helpful. Our next webinar is going to be December 17th at 10 o'clock California time. That's 1 o'clock East Coast time. And the topic will be ministering to prisoners and people in jail around the holidays, because it's a particularly difficult time of year for people who are incarcerated and for their families. So please join us. We'll send you out the link for that in the next day or two. And again, thank you, and Greg, for being with us.
George, can I add, sorry.
You can get one last word, and then we're going to probably drop out.
Sure, okay. So real quick, the Order of Malta is the Pen Pal program that's on the CPMC website. And I also just wanted to quickly give a shout out to a couple of upcoming opportunities. First to Dismiss Ministry. They is a national partner of ours and very supportive. They have the St. Dismiss Award, and they're inviting people to submit nominations for that award. Nominations are due pretty soon, November 20th. But ultimately, this is given annually to an individual in recognition of their outstanding service to the incarcerated. So if you have somebody in mind, please go ahead and nominate them. You can find that on dismissministry.org. You can find the award information there. The other thing is, many of you may be already aware of and know of the Word Among Us. And you may already, actively use that in your volunteer ministry in prisons or jails. But if you're not aware of that, and if you don't use that resource, please know that the Word Among Us has a special inmate issue. And if you would like to look more into that and to get free resources, please go ahead and contact Angela Burren. Up there you can see her email address, as well as a phone number you can reach out to. You can also go to the Word Among Us website to find more information. And I'll actually be posting that some of that information on the website soon. So just wanted to make sure that we shared that info today as well. And looks like George has left us. So thank you again, everyone. Sorry we had to cut this one a little short today, but George is having he's the host of our Zoom webinars, and Comcast is working over there. So thank you again. We really hope that you can join us in December on the 17th for our next webinar, which again will focus on ministering to persons who are incarcerated during the holidays, which can be a especially difficult time for those who are in prisons and jails. So thank you again, and God bless.